Right now, as you're listening to these words, thousands of thoughts are racing through your mind. Some are helping you, pushing you forward, filling you with hope and possibility. But others, the ones you might not even notice, are quietly sabotaging your dreams, whispering that you're not good enough, smart enough, or deserving enough to have the life you truly want. What if I told you that the single most powerful tool for transforming your entire existence isn't some expensive course, therapy session, or life coach? What if the key to unlocking your potential, breaking free from limiting beliefs, and creating the life you've always dreamed of is something you already possess but have never learned to master? Your thoughts are not just random mental chatter, they are the architects of your reality, the invisible forces that shape every decision you make, every relationship you build, and every opportunity you either seize or let slip away. The person who learns to control their thoughts doesn't just change their mindset, they change their entire world. Today, you're about to discover not just why your thoughts have such incredible power over your life, but exactly how to harness that power, redirect it, and use it to create the extraordinary life you deserve. This isn't theory. This is your roadmap to mental mastery and life transformation. Chapter 1. The science behind thought control. Every single day, the average human brain processes approximately 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts. That's roughly one thought every 1.2 seconds during your waking hours. But here's what most people don't realize. Of those thousands of daily thoughts, studies show that 80% are negative and 95% are the exact same thoughts you had yesterday. Think about that for a moment. You're essentially living the same mental day over and over again, like a broken record, playing the same limiting beliefs, the same fears, the same self-doubt on repeat. No wonder so many people feel stuck, frustrated, and unable to create meaningful change in their lives. But neuroscience has revealed something remarkable about the human brain that changes everything. Your brain possesses what scientists call neuroplasticity, the ability to reorganize, adapt, and form new neural pathways throughout your entire life. This means that no matter how ingrained your thought patterns seem, no matter how long you've been thinking a certain way, you have the power to literally rewire your brain. Dr. Joe Dispenza, a renowned neuroscientist and researcher, has spent decades studying how thoughts create our reality. His research shows that when we think a thought repeatedly, we strengthen the neural pathways associated with that thought. It's like walking the same path through a field every day. Eventually, you create a well-worn trail that becomes the easiest route to take. The same thing happens in your brain. When you consistently think thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," "I can't do this," or "nothing ever works out for me," you're literally carving these limiting beliefs deeper into your neural pathways. Your brain begins to accept these thoughts as truth, and they become your default programming. But here's the incredible part. You can use this same neuroplasticity to your advantage. Just as you can strengthen negative neural pathways through repetition, you can also create and strengthen positive ones. You can literally think your way to a better life by consciously choosing different thoughts and repeating them until they become your new mental default. The process isn't just psychological, it's physiological. When you think positive, empowering thoughts, your brain releases chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins. These neurochemicals don't just make you feel good, they enhance your cognitive function, boost your immune system, and increase your overall energy levels. In contrast, negative thoughts trigger the release of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which not only make you feel bad, but can also impair your health and decision-making abilities over time. This is why two people can experience the exact same situation and have completely different outcomes. It's not the situation that determines the result. It's how they think about the situation. One person sees a setback as proof that they're a failure, while another sees it as valuable feedback and an opportunity to grow. Same situation, different thoughts, completely different lives. Research conducted at Harvard University followed a group of hotel housekeepers for several weeks. Half of the group was told that their daily work activities constituted excellent exercise and burned calories equivalent to a gym workout. The other half received no such information. After just 4 weeks, the group that had been told their work was good exercise showed significant improvements in weight loss, blood pressure, and overall fitness levels, despite making no changes to their actual work routines. The only difference was their thoughts about what they were doing. This study demonstrates a fundamental truth. Your thoughts don't just influence how you feel about your reality. They actually change your physical reality. Your body responds to your thoughts as if they were physical experiences. When you vividly imagine succeeding at something, your brain activates many of the same neural networks that would fire if you were actually experiencing that success. This is why visualization techniques are so powerful. Olympic athletes have been using mental rehearsal for decades because they understand that the brain doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When a gymnast mentally rehearses a perfect routine, their brain is literally practicing those movements, strengthening the neural pathways that will help them perform better in real life. But most people never tap into this incredible power because they're not aware of their thoughts. They let their minds run on autopilot, unconsciously reinforcing the same limiting patterns day after day. They become prisoners of their own thinking, trapped in mental loops that keep them stuck in mediocrity. The first step to controlling your thoughts is becoming aware of them. This might sound simple, but it's actually quite challenging for most people. We're so accustomed to the constant stream of mental chatter that we often don't notice what we're thinking until a thought has already triggered an emotional response. Start paying attention to your internal dialogue throughout the day. What thoughts run through your mind when you wake up in the morning? What do you tell yourself when you're stuck in traffic? How do you talk to yourself when you make a mistake? What thoughts occupy your mind as you're falling asleep? You might be shocked by what you discover. Many people find that their internal dialogue is far more negative and self-critical than they ever realized. They notice that they're constantly judging themselves, anticipating problems, or rehearsing worst-case scenarios. No wonder they feel stressed, anxious, and unfulfilled. But once you become aware of your thought patterns, you gain the power to change them. Awareness is the first step to transformation. You can't control what you're not conscious of. But once you shine the light of awareness on your thoughts, you can begin to choose different ones. Chapter 2. The Thought-Reality Connection. Every great achievement in human history began as a thought in someone's mind. The Wright brothers thought they could build a machine that would allow humans to fly. Steve Jobs thought he could create a computer that would revolutionize how people interact with technology. Martin Luther King Jr. thought he could help create a world where people would be judged by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. These weren't just random thoughts. They were focused, persistent, and backed by unwavering belief. These individuals understood, either consciously or intuitively, that thoughts are the seeds of reality. Every building, every invention, every social movement, every work of art started as an idea in someone's mind before it became a physical reality. But the thought-reality connection goes much deeper than just conscious goal setting and achievement. Your thoughts are constantly shaping your reality in ways you might not even realize. They influence how you perceive situations, what opportunities you notice, how you respond to challenges, and what actions you take or don't take. Let's say you have the thought, "I'm not good at meeting new people." This thought doesn't just sit passively in your mind, it actively shapes your behavior. When you're in social situations, you might avoid eye contact, speak less confidently, or position yourself away from groups of people. Others pick up on these subtle cues and respond accordingly, which then reinforces your original belief that you're not good at meeting new people. On the other hand, if you think, "I'm naturally curious about people and enjoy learning about their stories," you'll behave differently. You'll make eye contact, ask questions, and show genuine interest in others. People will respond more positively to your energy, and you'll have more successful social interactions, which reinforces your belief that you're good with people. Same person, different thoughts, completely different social experiences. This is the thought-reality connection in action. Your thoughts also act like a filter for your perception. They determine what you notice and what you ignore in your environment. Have you ever decided to buy a particular car and then suddenly started seeing that same model everywhere? The cars were always there, but your thoughts about that specific vehicle made you more aware of it. This filtering system, known as the reticular activating system, or RAS, is constantly working in your brain. It's designed to help you focus on information that's relevant to your current thoughts and goals, while filtering out irrelevant data. The problem is that if your thoughts are focused on limitations, problems, and negative possibilities, that's exactly what your brain will help you notice more of. If you're constantly thinking thoughts like, "The economy is terrible," "Good jobs are hard to find," or "I never get lucky breaks," your RAS will filter your perception to notice evidence that supports these beliefs. You'll pay more attention to negative news stories, notice when others complain about their jobs, and be more aware of your own disappointments. Meanwhile, you might completely miss opportunities, positive developments, or success stories that contradict your negative beliefs. But when you shift your thoughts to focus on possibilities, solutions, and positive outcomes, your RAS begins filtering your perception differently. You start noticing opportunities you previously overlooked, solutions that were always available, and people who can help you achieve your goals. This is why successful people often say they're lucky. It's not that they have better luck than anyone else, they have better thoughts, which make them more aware of positive possibilities and more likely to take action when opportunities arise. Your thoughts also influence your physiology in profound ways. When you think stressful thoughts, your body responds as if you're actually facing a physical threat. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, stress hormones flood your system, and your immune system is suppressed. If you chronically think stressful thoughts, you can literally think yourself into poor health. Conversely, when you think peaceful, positive thoughts, your body relaxes, your heart rate slows, your muscles release tension, beneficial neurochemicals are released, and your immune system functions more effectively. Studies have shown that people who regularly practice positive thinking have lower rates of depression, greater resistance to illness, better cardiovascular health, and longer lifespans. The placebo effect is perhaps the most dramatic example of how thoughts can directly influence physical reality. In medical studies, patients who receive a sugar pill but believe they're receiving powerful medicine often experience real improvements in their symptoms. Their belief, their thought that they're receiving effective treatment, triggers actual physiological changes that promote healing. This effect is so powerful that pharmaceutical companies must prove their new drugs work better than placebos before getting approval. In some cases, placebos are nearly as effective as actual medications, demonstrating the incredible healing power of the mind when it believes recovery is possible. Your thoughts don't just influence your internal experience, they also affect how others perceive and respond to you. Have you ever noticed that when you're feeling confident and positive, people seem friendlier and more helpful? When you're feeling insecure or negative, others might seem less responsive or even hostile. This isn't your imagination. Your thoughts influence your facial expressions, body language, tone of voice, and energy level. Others unconsciously pick up on these subtle cues and respond accordingly. When your thoughts are positive and confident, you literally emit a different energy that attracts people and opportunities. When your thoughts are negative and fearful, you repel the very things you want most. This is why the saying, like attracts like, contains so much truth. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are, and what you are is largely determined by your dominant thought patterns. Understanding the thought-reality connection is liberating because it means you're not a victim of your circumstances. You're the creator of them. Every limitation you experience first existed as a thought in your mind. Every possibility you can achieve also begins as a thought. This doesn't mean you can simply think your way to instant success or that positive thinking alone will solve all your problems. Thoughts must be combined with action, persistence, and often hard work to create meaningful change. But it does mean that changing your thoughts is the most powerful first step you can take toward changing your life. When you truly understand that your thoughts are creating your reality, you realize that you have far more control over your life than you ever imagined. You're not at the mercy of external circumstances, other people's opinions, or past experiences. You have the power to choose different thoughts, which will lead to different feelings, different actions, and ultimately a different life. Chapter 3. Breaking free from mental prisons. Most people live their entire lives trapped in mental prisons of their own making, never realizing they hold the key to their own freedom. These prisons aren't made of steel bars or concrete walls. They're constructed from limiting beliefs, negative thought patterns, and self-imposed restrictions that feel so real and permanent that most people never question them. But here's the truth that can set you free. Every mental prison is built on a foundation of thoughts, and thoughts can be changed. No matter how long you've believed something about yourself or your capabilities, no matter how convinced you are that your limitations are real and permanent, you have the power to break free by changing the thoughts that created those limitations in the first place. Let's explore some of the most common mental prisons that keep people trapped in mediocrity and unfulfillment. The prison of past failures. Many people become prisoners of their past failures, allowing previous disappointments to dictate their future possibilities. They think thoughts like, "I tried that before, and it didn't work. I'm just not cut out for success," or "Every time I try something new, I fail." These thoughts create a mental prison where past failures become permanent sentences rather than temporary setbacks. The person stops taking risks, stops pursuing dreams, and settles for a life far below their potential because they're convinced that their past predicts their future. But consider this. Every successful person has a history of failures. The difference is how they think about those failures. Instead of seeing failure as evidence of their limitations, they see it as feedback, education, and stepping stones to success. They understand that failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of success. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb on his first try. He failed over 1,000 times before creating a working prototype. When asked about his failures, he famously said, "I have not failed. I have just found 1,000 ways that won't work." His thoughts about failure allowed him to persist where others would have given up. If you're trapped in the prison of past failures, you can break free by changing how you think about those experiences. Instead of thinking, "I failed," try thinking, "I learned." Instead of, "I'm not good at this," try, "I'm still developing this skill." Instead of, "It didn't work," try, "That approach didn't work, but another one might." The prison of other people's opinions. Another common mental prison is the fear of what others might think. People trap themselves with thoughts like, "What will people say? They'll think I'm crazy," or "I don't want to look foolish." This prison is particularly limiting because it prevents people from taking any action that might attract attention, criticism, or judgment. They play small, conform to expectations, and sacrifice their dreams to avoid disapproval from others, most of whom aren't even paying attention to their lives anyway. The irony is that the people whose opinions we fear most are often dealing with their own insecurities and limitations. They're not qualified to judge our potential or dictate our choices. Yet we give them power over our lives through our own thoughts. Here's a liberating truth. Other people's opinions of you are none of your business. They're based on their own experiences, biases, and limitations, not on your true potential. What matters is what you think about yourself and your possibilities. Eleanor Roosevelt understood this when she said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." Other people can have opinions about you, but they can only affect you if you choose to accept and internalize those opinions through your own thoughts. To break free from this prison, start thinking thoughts like, "Other people's opinions don't define my worth. I'm responsible for my own happiness, not other people's approval. And the people who matter will support me, and those who don't support me don't matter." The prison of perfectionism. Perfectionism might seem like a virtue, but it's actually one of the most limiting mental prisons. People trapped in perfectionism think thoughts like, "It has to be perfect or it's not worth doing." "I can't start until I know exactly what to do," or "If I can't do it perfectly, I shouldn't do it at all." This prison prevents people from taking action, learning from experience, and making progress toward their goals. They get stuck in endless planning, preparation, and analysis because they're terrified of producing anything less than perfect. But perfection is an impossible standard that paralyzes progress. The pursuit of perfection often leads to procrastination, anxiety, and ultimately inaction. Meanwhile, people who embrace good enough make steady progress, learn from their mistakes, and eventually achieve excellence through iteration and improvement. The antidote to perfectionism is embracing what's called progressive improvement. Instead of thinking you need to be perfect, think about being better than you were yesterday. Instead of, "It has to be perfect," try, "It has to be started." Instead of, "I need to know everything before I begin," try, "I'll learn as I go." The prison of scarcity thinking. Many people trap themselves in scarcity thinking, believing that there's not enough success, money, love, or opportunities to go around. They think thoughts like, "The rich get richer and the poor get poorer," "Good opportunities are rare," or "If someone else succeeds, there's less success available for me." This mental prison creates competition where collaboration would be more beneficial, hoarding where sharing would create abundance, and fear where confidence would attract opportunities. It's based on the false belief that life is a zero-sum game, where one person's gain must come at another's expense. In reality, we live in an abundant universe where success, wealth, and opportunities can be created and expanded. When someone else succeeds, they often create more opportunities for others. When businesses thrive, they hire more people and create more value for everyone. When people share knowledge and resources, everyone benefits. To break free from scarcity thinking, start cultivating thoughts of abundance. Think, there are unlimited opportunities available to me. Other people's success inspires and motivates me. And the more value I create for others, the more abundance flows into my life. The prison of identity-based limitations. Perhaps the most restrictive mental prison is the one built from limiting beliefs about your identity. These are thoughts like, I'm just not a creative person, I'm not good with money, I'm not leadership materials, or I'm not the type of person who succeeds. These identity-based limitations are particularly powerful because they feel like core truths about who you are rather than temporary thoughts that can be changed. When you believe something is part of your fundamental identity, you unconsciously act in ways that confirm and reinforce that belief. If you believe you're not a creative person, you won't engage in creative activities, take creative risks, or develop creative skills. This lack of creative engagement then reinforces your belief that you're not creative, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. But your identity is not fixed. It's fluid and constantly evolving based on your experiences and, more importantly, your thoughts about those experiences. You can literally think yourself into a new identity by consistently thinking new thoughts about who you are and what you're capable of. Instead of I'm not creative, try thinking I'm developing my creativity. Instead of I'm not good with money, try I'm learning to manage money effectively. Instead of I'm not leadership material, try I'm growing into my leadership potential. The key to breaking free from any mental prison is to first recognize that you're in one. Most people don't realize they're trapped because their limiting thoughts feel so natural and true. They've been thinking the same thoughts for so long that those thoughts have become invisible, like the air they breathe. But once you become aware of your limiting thoughts, you can begin to question them. Ask yourself, is this thought absolutely true? How do I know this is true? What evidence contradicts this belief? How would my life be different if I didn't believe this thought? Often, you'll discover that your limiting beliefs are based on outdated information, other people's opinions, or isolated experiences that you've generalized into universal truths. Once you see that these beliefs are just thoughts, and thoughts can be changed, you can begin to replace them with more empowering alternatives. Remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the thinker of your thoughts, which means you have the power to choose different ones. Every mental prison can be unlocked with the key of awareness and the conscious choice to think differently. The moment you realize you're not trapped by your circumstances, but by your thoughts about your circumstances, you discover a freedom that no external force can take away from you. You become the architect of your own mental environment and, consequently, the creator of your own reality. Chapter 4. The Neuroscience of Thought Transformation. To truly master your thoughts and transform your life, it's essential to understand what's happening in your brain when you think. The field of neuroscience has made remarkable discoveries in recent decades that reveal exactly how thoughts create physical changes in your brain, and how you can harness these mechanisms to rewire your mind for success. Your brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of other neurons through intricate networks called neural pathways. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, and every action you take is the result of electrical and chemical signals traveling through these pathways. Here's what's fascinating. Every time you think a particular thought, you strengthen the neural pathway associated with that thought. It's like a river carving a deeper channel through rock with each passing flow of water. The more often you think a specific thought, the stronger and more automatic that neural pathway becomes. This is why negative thinking patterns can become so ingrained and difficult to change. If you've spent years thinking thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," or "nothing ever works out for me," you've literally carved these beliefs into your brain's neural architecture. These pathways have become superhighways of negative thinking that your brain automatically travels down whenever similar situations arise. But here's the empowering truth. Your brain remains plastic throughout your entire life. Neuroplasticity means you can create new neural pathways and weaken old ones, regardless of your age or how long you've been thinking certain thoughts. Every time you consciously choose a new thought pattern, you're literally rewiring your brain. The process works like this. When you consciously think a new, positive thought, you activate a different set of neurons. If you repeat this new thought consistently over time, you begin building a new neural pathway. Initially, this pathway is weak and requires conscious effort to activate, but with repetition, it grows stronger and more automatic. Meanwhile, when you stop reinforcing old negative thought patterns, those neural pathways begin to weaken through a process called synaptic pruning. Your brain essentially dissolves connections that aren't being used regularly, following the principle of use it or lose it. Dr. Rick Hanson, a neuropsychologist and author, explains this process with a simple phrase: neurons that fire together, wire together. When you repeatedly combine certain thoughts with positive emotions and actions, you create strong neural networks that support your new way of thinking. This is why affirmations and positive thinking can be so powerful when done correctly. It's not just wishful thinking. You're literally rewiring your brain's neural architecture to support more empowering beliefs and behaviors. However, there's a crucial point to understand. Simply thinking positive thoughts isn't enough. The key to successful neural rewiring is combining new thoughts with strong emotions and, when possible, with new actions. This creates what neuroscientists call enriched learning experiences that accelerate the formation of new neural pathways. When you think a new, empowering thought while feeling genuine emotions like excitement, gratitude, or determination, you're activating multiple brain regions simultaneously. This multisensory activation creates stronger and more durable neural connections than thinking alone. This is why visualization exercises are so effective when they include emotional and sensory elements. When you vividly imagine achieving a goal, while feeling the emotions you would experience and engaging multiple senses, you're creating robust neural pathways that your brain can follow in real-life situations. The brain also has something called mirror neurons, which fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing the same action. This is why watching others succeed can actually help rewire your brain for success. When you observe someone achieving what you want to achieve, your mirror neurons activate as if you were having that success yourself. This is one reason why surrounding yourself with successful, positive people is so important for personal transformation. Your brain is literally mirroring their neural patterns and creating pathways that support similar success in your own life. The prefrontal cortex, located in the front part of your brain, plays a crucial role in thought control. This region is responsible for executive functions like decision-making, impulse control, and conscious thought regulation. When you practice mindfulness, meditation, or conscious thought redirection, you're strengthening your prefrontal cortex and enhancing your ability to control your thoughts. Studies have shown that people who regularly practice mindfulness meditation have thicker prefrontal cortexes and stronger connections between this region and other parts of the brain. This enhanced neural architecture gives them greater ability to observe their thoughts objectively and choose more empowering alternatives. The amygdala, often called the brain's alarm system, is another critical component in thought transformation. This almond-shaped structure triggers fight or flight responses when it perceives threats. The problem is that your amygdala can't distinguish between real physical threats and imagined ones created by your thoughts. When you think fearful or anxious thoughts, your amygdala activates as if you were facing actual danger. This triggers stress responses that can override your prefrontal cortex ability to think clearly and make good decisions. Understanding this mechanism helps explain why negative thinking can create such powerful physical and emotional reactions. However, you can train your brain to respond differently to fearful thoughts. Through practices like deep breathing, meditation, and cognitive reframing, you can strengthen the connection between your prefrontal cortex and your amygdala. This allows your thinking brain to calm your emotional brain and maintain better control over your thoughts and reactions. The brain's reward system, centered around a chemical called dopamine, also plays a vital role in thought transformation. Dopamine is released when you experience or anticipate something pleasurable. This neurochemical not only makes you feel good, but also reinforces the neural pathways associated with the thoughts and behaviors that preceded the reward. You can use this system to your advantage by celebrating small wins and progress toward your goals. When you acknowledge and feel good about positive changes in your thinking, you're releasing dopamine that reinforces those new thought patterns. This makes it more likely that you'll continue thinking in these new, empowering ways. Sleep plays a crucial role in neural rewiring as well. During sleep, particularly during REM sleep, your brain consolidates memories and strengthens neural pathways that were active during the day. This is why getting adequate quality sleep is essential for anyone trying to change their thought patterns. If you spend your days practicing new ways of thinking, your brain will use sleep time to consolidate these new patterns and integrate them into your neural architecture. Poor sleep can interfere with this consolidation process and make it much harder to establish new thought habits. The concept of neuroplasticity also explains why changing thought patterns often feels uncomfortable at first. Your brain is naturally efficient and prefers to use established neural pathways rather than create new ones. When you try to think differently, you're literally working against your brain's tendency toward efficiency. This is normal and temporary. The discomfort you feel when changing thought patterns is simply your brain's resistance to change. Understanding this can help you persist through the initial difficulty of establishing new mental habits. Research has shown that it typically takes between 21 to 66 days to form a new habit, depending on the complexity of the behavior and individual factors. The same timeline applies to thought habits. If you consistently practice new thought patterns for this period, they begin to feel more natural and automatic. One of the most exciting discoveries in neuroscience is that positive changes in thought patterns can happen remarkably quickly. While it may take weeks or months to fully establish new neural pathways, people often report feeling significant shifts in their mental state within days or even hours of beginning to practice new ways of thinking. This rapid change occurs because your brain is constantly adapting to new information and experiences. Even a single powerful insight or emotional experience can create immediate changes in your neural activity that influence your thoughts and behaviors. Understanding the neuroscience behind thought transformation is empowering because it proves that change is not only possible, but inevitable when you apply the right principles consistently. You're not trying to overcome some mysterious, unchangeable aspect of your personality. You're simply rewiring your brain's neural networks through conscious, repeated practice. This scientific understanding also helps explain why some people seem to change effortlessly while others struggle. Those who succeed typically combine new thoughts with strong emotions, take consistent action, get adequate sleep, and persist through the initial discomfort of neural rewiring. They understand that their brain is literally changing and that temporary discomfort is a sign of progress, not failure. Every time you choose a new thought over an old one, you're participating in the miraculous process of neural rewiring. You're literally sculpting your brain into a new configuration that supports the life you want to create. This isn't metaphorical, it's measurable, observable, and scientifically documented. Chapter 5. The 4 Pillars of Thought Control. Now that you understand the science behind how thoughts work and how they can be changed, it's time to learn the practical framework for gaining control over your mental environment. Thought control isn't about suppressing or eliminating thoughts, it's about becoming the conscious director of your mental movie rather than a passive viewer. The framework I'm about to share with you is built on 4 foundational pillars that support all effective thought control practices. Master these 4 pillars, and you'll have the tools you need to transform any area of your life through the power of directed thinking. Pillar 1. Awareness, the foundation of all change. The first pillar of thought control is awareness, the ability to observe your thoughts without being consumed by them. Most people are so identified with their thoughts that they don't realize they're thinking. They are their thoughts rather than the observer of their thoughts. But you are not your thoughts. You are the consciousness that observes thoughts coming and going in your mind. This distinction is crucial because once you realize you can observe your thoughts, you also realize you can choose which ones to focus on and which ones to let pass by. Developing thought awareness is like strengthening a muscle. It requires practice, but it gets stronger over time. Start by setting random reminders throughout your day to pause and notice what you're thinking. You might be surprised by what you discover. Many people find that their default mental state involves worry, judgment, planning, or replaying past events. They're rarely present in the current moment, instead living in a mental world of past regrets and future anxieties. This scattered mental state makes it impossible to direct your thoughts purposefully toward your goals and dreams. The practice of mindfulness meditation is one of the most effective ways to develop thought awareness. Even just 10 minutes a day of sitting quietly and observing your thoughts can dramatically improve your ability to notice mental patterns throughout the day. During meditation, you'll notice that thoughts arise spontaneously in your mind. The goal isn't to stop these thoughts. That's impossible and unnecessary. The goal is to observe them without getting caught up in them. Watch them come and go like clouds passing across the sky of your consciousness. As you develop this observer perspective, you'll begin to notice the difference between helpful thoughts that serve your goals and unhelpful thoughts that keep you stuck. You'll start to see patterns in your thinking, recognizing when you tend to fall into negative mental loops and what triggers these patterns. This awareness is incredibly liberating because it gives you choice. When you're not aware of your thoughts, they control you. When you become aware of them, you can control them. Pillar 2. Acceptance. Releasing resistance to what is. The second pillar is acceptance. Not acceptance of your circumstances, but acceptance of your current thought patterns without judgment or resistance. Many people, when they first become aware of their negative thinking, immediately judge themselves harshly for having such thoughts. They think, I shouldn't be thinking this way. I'm so negative, or there must be something wrong with me. This self-judgment creates additional negative thoughts on top of the original ones, making the problem worse rather than better. Acceptance means acknowledging your current thought patterns with compassion and understanding. You didn't choose to develop negative thinking habits. They developed gradually over time in response to your experiences, conditioning, and environment. Now that you're aware of them, you can choose to change them. But fighting against them or judging yourself for having them only creates more mental turmoil. Think of acceptance like this. If you discovered weeds in your garden, you wouldn't stand there yelling at the weeds or judging yourself for having them. You would simply acknowledge that they're there and then take appropriate action to remove them and plant something better in their place. The same principle applies to unwanted thoughts. Accept that they're currently a part of your mental landscape. Understand that they developed for reasons that made sense at the time, and then focus your energy on cultivating more empowering thoughts to replace them. This doesn't mean you have to like your negative thoughts or that you should keep them. It simply means you stop wasting energy fighting against what's already present and instead use that energy constructively to create positive change. Acceptance also involves recognizing that changing thought patterns takes time and practice. You didn't develop your current thinking habits overnight, and you won't change them overnight either. Be patient with yourself and celebrate small improvements rather than expecting instant transformation. Pillar 3. Redirection. Consciously choosing new thoughts. The third pillar is redirection. The active practice of consciously choosing new thoughts to replace unhelpful ones. Once you're aware of a negative or limiting thought and have accepted its presence without judgment, you can redirect your mental energy toward a more empowering alternative. Redirection isn't about forcing yourself to think positive thoughts when you're feeling negative. That approach often backfires because it creates internal conflict and feels inauthentic. Instead, redirection involves gradually shifting your focus toward thoughts that are both believable and more helpful than your current ones. For example, if you notice yourself thinking, I'll never be successful, don't try to immediately jump to I'm incredibly successful. Your mind will reject this as unrealistic, and you'll end up feeling worse. Instead, redirect to a thought like, I'm learning what it takes to be successful, or I'm taking steps towards success every day.